Well, hello, and a warm welcome back to another week on my allotments. And I'm in a good mood. I know it doesn't look it. I watch a lot of other allotment channels. I'm always interested to see how other people fare and also how other people present their channels. And of course, as you'd expect, the variety is very wide. Some are very professional and others, into which I group myself, are not. But they all have their own interests. And of course, this year, the theme is very common. How challenging it's been, how difficult it's been, how some crops, you know, they've lost crops. There's one chap who's got a polytunnel, and every sort of month he shows another hole in it where foxes are finding a way through the plastic and ruin it. You know, how he keeps a stiff upper lip is beyond me. But anyway, I find it all fascinating. And of course, as I've mentioned and laboured the point, you know, it has been a challenging year and it has been difficult. But, and this is the reason I'm in a good mood, I spend a lot of time through the late autumn through to the early spring saying how brown my plot looks, how bare, how boring it looks. But right now, we had a little bit of rain yesterday, not a lot, not enough to get down into the ground, so I'm still watering. And last week was very hot. You know, we were up in this part of the country, we were up around 25 degrees, which was very nice for the allotment and for the squashes, etc. Of course, the kids have now broken up for school, which means the weather will be god-awful. It always is. But I have to say, right now, the plot is looking as green as it ever does. All the crops that I've got look fantastic. And today, I have got a couple of jobs on, and I'll show you those. But primarily today is all about harvest. I have warned Cheryl that when I get back there's going to be a lot of work on. She's not happy about that because most of it's her work. Most of it's her work. But we know how valuable it is because getting all that stuff into the freezers has us prepared for the winter. And I've had a couple of questions, I think it's from the same chap, you know, about, oh, you've got a lot of food there, you should be giving it away to food banks and so on. The contract with the farmer here prevents us from doing that. I'm not sure I'd do that anyway. I have got a selfish streak in me. I grow this food for me and my family. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. But we're not allowed to give it away. Anything we take off this plot either goes for private consumption or must go to the farm shop where they sell it, and then we get 50% of the profit. So it's not an option. So that's that one put to bed. So yeah, everything's looking fantastic. There's a lot of work on today. It's Sunday morning. It's 5:45. I've been up here an hour. No sunrise to speak of this morning. Just a few little sort of pinkish shades on the clouds. But anyway, let's start by having a look in the greenhouse at home, because you can barely step inside it now. And then we'll come back here and we'll just have a mosey round the plot and look at how wonderful everything is looking. And then I really need to get on with some work. So welcome along. Well, this greenhouse is 6 by 6, so it's tiny, but it packs a punch. So I've got some winter brassicas, 1 tray, 2 trays. The sweet peppers are really coming on. They're nearly full size. Then I've got lettuce, basil. There's basil everywhere, all over the garden. Celery, 2 cucumber plants, Fem Spot, which are definitely producing the best cucumbers we've ever had, so I shall be sticking with that in the future. We're cropping them like crazy now. We get so many of them, we juice quite a few of them. And then the tomatoes, and the tomatoes are doing well as well. My first ever Tigerella tomato. They look splendid. I hope they taste as good as they look. But yeah, it's all coming on very well. And I'm slowly cutting the leaves off the tomato plants from the bottom up to let more light and air in. And the plants want to leave the greenhouse by the look of it. And the cucumbers are going to be coming across the roof soon. Anyway, back to the plot. Right, so back to the work. This row of Charlotte second early potatoes look a mess, and they're coming out today. And then in their stead I have a couple of pumpkin plants that I still haven't found space for, and they're going to go in there. So that's quite a time intensive job, so I better get to work, I suppose. And these peas are coming down. I don't want the seeds for next year. I'm not going to grow them again. I just prefer the Alderman conventional pea. But it was worth a try. So that's all got to come down. Whether that happens today or not, I'm not sure. Well, never let it be said that I labour a point, but one of the skills that I've developed this year and improved upon is the second sowings. The having something ready to go into an empty bed. And of course you saw me last week clear this bed here of a rather pathetic onion crop. Well, going in there today are that tray of leeks. And again, I know the perceived wisdom is don't follow one variety of crop with another, i.e. alliums, but I don't pay too much attention to that. So those leeks are going in there. The reason they're going in there is because this bed is at the top end of the plot, so they're going to be in there as winter takes a grip. And this bed tends not to flood because it's at the upper end. So that's my reasoning. So I just need to run the hoe through it, and then I shall plant them, hopefully today. And I've got a tray of beetroot there, and I don't have an empty bed for them to go in, but I'll keep them up here because the greenhouse is getting hot this time of year, although you wouldn't know it to look at the weather. So I'll keep them up here till a bed becomes available. Well, I mentioned that I watch other YouTubers, and I watch them for all sorts of different reasons. Some of them are entertaining, some of them are highly competent, and one of those is Charles Dowding. Of course, he's entertaining as well, but he's highly knowledgeable, and his approach is a no-fuss approach. He tells the audience that he never cleans pots. You know, you clean your pots to stop viruses staying within the, you know. He says he's never cleaned a pot in his life, and he's never had a problem, and neither do I. So I tend to listen to what he says, and I learned something from him this week, so I credit Charles Dowding with this. And it is about this kind of thing. Now, maybe last year, even earlier this year, I would have thought that was blight and I would start to take action. But as Charles Dowding said in one of his recent videos, that is not blight. That is simply the aging process of the top growth of potatoes. It's perfectly normal and nothing to worry about. If it was blight, these plants would die down and look horrible and smelly within 24 to 48 hours. It would be instant, and it isn't. So thank you, Charles. That has taught me a valuable lesson, and I'm not going to panic. I'm going to keep calm and carry on. Well, down the plot I'm growing a different courgette this year. It's called Tondo di Plasenzo, and they're ball shaped, and my original thought was that they would be quite novel to take to the farm shop. The problem is it's not that many of them growing, so you can't take 3 or 4 of those little sort of tennis ball shaped courgettes down there. You know, it's not a sufficient crop. Anyway, as with all these things, you must concentrate and you must keep your eye on the ball. If you don't, when you look underneath the top growth, no, it's not a pumpkin, that is a courgette. And as if that isn't bad enough, ow, there's another one. Took my eye off the ball for a couple of days and they really went to town. Now I would imagine that's perfectly edible. Quite what you do with a courgette that size. We don't have a spiralizer big enough to put that through it. Keep your eye on your crops, boys and girls. Well, that's one row, and it's the only row of Charlotte I've got in the ground, and I'm very happy with that. There's not many of them, but what there is, he says, is good quality, and they're the duffers. They're mostly taken by slugs, but yeah, I'm very happy with that. That's a start to the harvesting for the day. Right, I've made a right old mess, now I've got to clear it up. Well, another job ticked off the list. Let's hope they've got enough time to produce a crop. If the weather doesn't improve, I won't get any, I'm sure. But anyway, they're in now. Well, I thought I can't resist it. I should keep my mouth shut, shouldn't I? But I'm always fascinated by how mad the world is getting. I mean, you must observe it. And, you know, every time you think you've seen the most stupid thing, somebody proves you wrong and it gets even more stupid. Most of it's funny and you can laugh at it, at the stupidity of people, and sometimes you can't. But the latest one I've seen, the NHS is an absolute goldmine of stupidity. And the latest one is that the NHS has issued guidance to its GPs to take every opportunity to talk to their patients about climate change and to look out for climate change anxiety. I mean, good old NHS, as if it hasn't got enough to worry about. Yeah, I thought that was cracking. Good luck with that. The second one is just an observation about the attempted assassination of Trump. Anybody else look at that and see that they knew that fellow was there? They identified him half an hour before Trump went on stage because he was using rangefinder binoculars, which are used by snipers to determine the range and the distance they've got to shoot. And they identified that half an hour before Trump came out into public. And then the public were telling the Secret Service and the police about the chap on the roof. And there's loads of footage of it, of him crawling about ages before Trump came on stage. And the snipers themselves had him in their sights and said, can we take the shot? And they weren't given an answer. Did anybody else look at that and think, it almost looks like they wanted Trump to be shot? It's just my opinion. And the third one, which is, there's no humour to be found in it at all. And unusually, the lunacy comes from Germany, where a 15-year-old girl in Hamburg was getting drunk with her friends in the park. There's the first mistake. And she got separated from her friends, and an immigrant came across her, of a certain race, and raped her. As if that's not bad enough, he then went on social media to his friends and said, I've got this drunk, immobile girl here, anybody else fancy a go? So some of his friends turned up and they gang raped her. When the police investigated, they recovered the DNA of 9 individuals from her body. As if that's not disgusting enough. These guys were caught and taken to court. The only one of the 9 to get a custodial sentence was the chap who posted it on social media. All the others got non-custodial sentences for gang rape. But that's not the end of the lunacy. By accident, one of their phone numbers was leaked to the internet, and a woman texted him or messaged him and called him a pig. I mean, I think that's quite mild. I can think of several other things. Anyway, under Germany's new hate laws, she was prosecuted and sent to prison for a weekend. So she got a custodial sentence where 8 gang rapers didn't. Now that's, and I can't find humour in that. That is disgusting beyond belief. But you do have to wonder just how far this lunacy goes before the human race, the West particularly, wakes up. Jesus. The world's gone mad, I swear. Well, very happy with that. Both those leeks and the beetroot are multi-sown. So those leeks haven't been puddled in the conventional way. Because they're multi-sown, I just planted them as plug plants in the conventional way. But that's another bed full with another fresh crop. Really happy. So right now, middle of July, no empty beds. And I've got more, as you saw, more brassicas, winter brassicas coming on in the greenhouse. I shall pot them up into larger pots this week and they'll be ready to go in as the brassica bed's empty. It's going well. I'm going to start getting a crop off these Tumbling Tom tomatoes soon. Well, I must have had better harvests, but I don't remember when. Absolutely fantastic. So despite the difficult year, if you stick with it, you work hard, you can still reap the rewards. Well, as always, I'm knackered. It's only just after lunchtime, but I'm going to make that do because we've got lots to do when I get all that produce home. Quite a few of the broccoli stems I've got there are shoots that have grown where I cut off the original head and then put a cross in the stump and I've left it. and I've got a second crop, which is nice. But yeah, there's a lot to process there, and all that broccoli and cauliflower will see us through the winter. And of course I've still got more growing. They may have to go to the farm shop, I'm not sure. Cheryl will instruct me. And that's the last picking of peas, I think. And this year I'm going to save my own seed when it comes to peas. So I shall leave those peas that are now yellowing and drying for a month, and then I'll shell them and save the seeds, which is something I need to do more of. So thank you for joining me this week. I should be around next weekend. I hope your gardens and allotments are all coming good after the terrible year we've had. But I have to say, you know, it has been awful, but when you get to July and you start to harvest those kinds of crops, it all comes good, doesn't it? It's worth all that hard work and frustration. So, thanks again. I shall see you next weekend. Until then, look after yourselves, take care, bye for now.